mean, this is just sexy music. What's going on, Awesemo fam? I'm Eric Lindquist. This is the MLB Live Before Lock. Ironically enough, not right before lock. We are a couple hours away here still, but just to be able to make room for some of the NBA content we have coming down later in the pipeline, we are coming to you live now. We're going to talk pitchers. We're going to talk stacks. We're going to talk hitters. We're going to talk all the goodies you need for tonight's 6-game slate. We are being sponsored today by monkeyknifefight.com. We will get to them a little bit later, but first, the guy, the man, the myth, the legend, Gundacker. How you doing, my guy?
What's up, Eric, man? I'm happy to be here. We stayed up late playing some baseball last night, so a little bit earlier tonight, a little bit more condensed slate to kind of let us recover from the overwhelming all-dayness of yesterday. But fear not, tomorrow is going to get right back to overwhelming. So enjoy it. Enjoy the condensed dual lock with NBA with only one game for the first 2 hours.
Yeah, are you dabbling in 48 sports like one Eric McPherson, our beloved EMAC?
It feels like it. NBA, I'm dueling main slate locks here with NBA and baseball, but I don't play golf and MMA that much, so I don't have the whole weekend experience like some of you guys are being able to truly enjoy. It's a triathlon of sorts.
Yeah, enjoy is one word for it. Yeah, we're keeping it multifaceted over here, but one way that you can stay multifaceted too within your DFS exposures, make sure that you guys get down to that bottom bar and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you know when this and all the other content here at Awesemo is going live. We're gonna have we're gonna have a ton of content every single day around the clock. We're ready to rock though, so let's kind of get to it. How was your opening day, first of all?
The day slate wasn't great, but the night slate went wonderfully. It was going really good. I almost triple podiumed on DraftKings last night, and then the Astros really kind of late into that game woke up. We had a Bregman bomb, Jordan off the wall. I had a little bit of those, but those guys really kind of ate into my top lineup. So it was profitable nonetheless, but it was almost like I was literally, I had 5 lineups in the top 12 of my contest, and I was first, second, and third in like the 8th inning ish. And I was thinking I might had a really cool opening day, but we still made some money. And you don't want to win on the first day, then there's nothing to build. Yeah. So we got to keep the hope alive and keep something to grind for today.
Yeah, we only have about 200 days more of MLB to focus on here. So, yeah, if you win the first one out of the gate, you're basically just giving back the rest of the year. You don't want to do that. So, so that was a good strategy by you. I like your call there. But yeah, we've got a 6-gamer here today. We're going to kind of go pitcher by pitcher here. We're going to go talk about some of the stacks and hitters that we have some interest in. So let's just kind of get it started. We'll kind of look over at both sites too, and we'll get to your questions here at the end of this as well. So if everybody wants to fire up some questions in chat and premium Slack and YouTube, we'll kind of get to a little bit of everything. But this pitcher slate is very, I think, rough considering this is the second day of the entire year. You kind of expect more aces to be on the mound than what we've got, but we've got Trevor Bauer sitting at the top in Coors Field. He's sitting at $10,800 over on DraftKings. Let's just kind of like start with him because he is garnering some massive ownership. If you pull up our ownership projections, curious what you think about him in Coors Field, his addition to the Dodgers. What a big offseason acquisition for him, but obviously he pitched great in Great American Ballpark, which I believe had the 4th most runs last year in 2020. Coors is going to be similar profile, 2nd most. So what do you think about Trevor Bauer today?
I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that the pitching pool as a whole seems kind of shallow past him, there's like 1 or 2 other options that I'm kind of keying in on. Then I'd kind of want to avoid, getting the most expensive price pitcher, perhaps the highest owned pitcher in Coors out of my lineups. But I might have to eat some of that. I'll kind of meditate on it a little bit more. I guess the initial pushback would be, I also want the Dodgers bats, and I probably am kind of limited on how many Dodgers bats I can get if I prioritize Trevor Bauer. So it might be a unique approach early on to maybe go against chalk Coors Bauer and just maybe focus on bats and pitchers elsewhere. Also, I'm just worried about any pitcher in Coors, but Trevor Bauer comes off as a kind of like a baseball nerd, where he probably has done some research on what will work and what won't work in the altitude. So Rockies don't necessarily scare me too much. They still have some power bats and anything in the altitude chipping a chair. But I'll just say I understand why Bauer is getting looked at the way he is. I would like to come up with as many reasons as I can to push to not be overly exposed to him. But outside of him, it's like Blake Snell and a couple of question marks. So that's kind of my early take on that one.
Yeah, I'm looking over at FanDuel. He's going a little bit over-owned, it looks like there. Using our top pitcher tool, which is one of the best things you can be clicking on constantly. On a 6-game slate like this, it's not too hard to kind of narrow down your pool because there's such a limited number of pitchers. But right now, coming in at 26% ownership, top pitcher 20% of the time over on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, though, we're still seeing him with a top 2 percentage around 33%, and his ownership's a little bit lower than that. Are you seeing like in some of your early builds, obviously we don't have all the lineups that we're looking for here yet, but are you finding that you're getting to him more on one side as opposed to the other?
No, I think on FanDuel, Blake Snell's probably going to be my highest guy.
Okay. Then let's kind of like lead right into him next, because Blake Snell, obviously the change of ballpark. I'm not sure. Like Alex talked a lot yesterday about how San Diego, the weather's better than where it is in the Midwest. And I think that that's a really interesting talking point. A guy who pitched in Tropicana for years, a great pitcher's ballpark by every metric. But Blake Snell, 9,700 going up against Arizona, second most strikeouts in the NL last year. What are you kind of seeing from Blake Snell that you're really excited about targeting today?
Well, one, I think, outside of Brian Cash, there is some proof, a lot of off-season interviews where he didn't make it a secret that he just didn't like the way he went out in the World Series game. He had 5 starts in the spring, only allowed a 106 average, a 0.63 whip, and didn't allow a run. So that's encouraging, right?
I don't know.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to overreact to like spring training performances, but when you're not allowing anything on spring training, usually where you get your mechanics right, you're just focused on velo and whatever. Hey, while you're out there, if you're not giving up runs, I'll buy into that. I think he's pitching some inspired baseball, and he's not in Coors, so that's a plus for me.
He's not going to get pulled out in a 4th or a 5th inning when he's absolutely rocking in the World Series here on out. I think the change of venue is probably a good thing for him. He seemed a little disgruntled last year, and we know the Cy Young talent that he has and the ability that's there in that arm. So I do like this switch. This team is just going to be so fun to watch. Curious to kind of see how they stack up in the NL West, which again is just going to be super, super top heavy without those top 2 options. But I kind of like the call. I like going to the Blake Snell route of it too. I think I've been there quite a bit over on FanDuel, but I'm still finding it tough to get off of Trevor Bauer on DraftKings. But I think, you're looking at those top 2 up there, and then it gets narrow down here. Dallas Keuchel, been around the league forever, garnering just about no ownership. Next guy listed over on DraftKings at 8,700. Ryan Yarbrough, now a starter, a guy who had come in and done a lot of like long reliever stints for a long time for the Rays. Like kind of going his direction against Miami, targeting them is always a positive. Looks like he's going maybe a little under-owned compared to where Alex has him in the top 2 pitcher percentage as well. And then Jesus Luzardo, the young arm that we've been looking at for a long time, coming up through the minors, and now is kind of like got an opportunity for a full season to really kind of showcase what he has up against Houston tonight. So kind of in that range, is there anybody that you're kind of looking at?
Pablo Lopez right now is my second highest owned guy in my personal build.
Going on down there. Yeah. Talk about
him. Yeah. I mean, last year, there's stuff to like, there's stuff to be scared of. I'll focus on what we did like. His splits versus righties last year. He kind of looks very Dylan Bundy-esque when you look at his lefty-righty splits, elite versus righties with some leaks against lefties. Last year against righties, a 293 xFIP, a 34.7% K rate, 2 righties, a 184 average allowed, extreme ground ball pitcher, And if you are a home road guy at home, a 2.93 xFIP overall, a 3.28 xFIP overall with a 25% K rate. Kept the ball in the park, kept the ball on the ground. So 7K, I'll chip in a chair that against a Rays lineup with enough strikeout potential for me to get my bat. I live next to trains. I'm sorry.
I heard that. You're kidding. You live next to a train? No,
like
no, you don't.
Borderline in my parking lot. There's a.
I thought it was borderline in your living room, actually. But, so Pablo Lopez, I really like going his direction, too. One of the things that really pops out to me about him, 8.7% home run to fly ball rate. So he's keeping the ball in the park for these Rays that, have a lot of guys who had some pop towards the end of the postseason last year with the different look with Arozarena in that lineup. I do like Pablo Lopez and his profile here, a team that's going to strike out a lot, I think, this year, too. For the Rays, I like going that direction. I think sitting and taking the savings there, I think he kind of ends up giving you access to a lot of those Coors Fields bat that it sounds like you're kind of going for. Is there somebody else that's going to help you also get there? If you're not going to be going Trevor Bauer or Snell, I guess Snell and Lopez kind of like sound like your two guys, but anybody else down here at the bottom end you're targeting? I'm assuming not Senzatella.
No, definitely not. Like he's not even in the player pool when I get to my opto. Probably some shots at Luzardo. I'm torn on the viability of Yusei Kikuchi. I love Giants against lefties. It's just like my Cinderella stack that always comes through. Last night, great example. But for his price, Kikuchi at 6K, like there is a pathway to, could I live with 10 to 15 DraftKings points? If that was a bridge to go get some of those Coors bats, maybe I have a little bit of that. And then Keiko and Heaney, such a tight toss up, right? I could see both those guys surviving and not being horrendous plays. I could also see both those guys getting lit up. Heaney's strikeout percentages to both sides of the plate last year gives me some encouragement that, even if he let a couple over the wall, he could still walk away with a strikeout per inning. The White Sox against lefties is also one of my favorite spots. Like the Giants, but we're gonna have to make some tough decisions. And if you're a multi-entry guy, you can play both sides of the fence. So that's what I'm gonna be doing, as scummy as it may sound.
No, it's not scummy at all. I think that's more than viable, because it's a guy that, would it surprise me if he went out and threw 7 strong, or not 7, but if he went out and threw 5 strong, I think early in the year here, I doubt anybody's going to get really stretched out. That's kind of the curious thing that I keep thinking about with Trevor Bauer today, is how long are they going to let him go? A Dodger pitching staff that's really kind of compressed their starters in the past and doesn't really allow for them to go. Bauer's like the most durable arm that we have in the league. The guy who basically has the longest leash and the longest pitch count. So I'm curious to see kind of what happens there. But yeah, Kikuchi, would it shock me if he went 5 and put up 0 and had an 8-9K line? No. Would it surprise me if he didn't get out of the first? No, it wouldn't. So yeah, I'm kind of right there with you in terms of that stack. I think that's a good way to go. Anybody else that you really want to touch base on in this pitching pool that is really kind of miserable?
I would probably say that the Mariners still project poor enough that, if we're talking about, it wouldn't shock me if Cueto, at 6.6, 7.2, ate enough innings to at least be a stocking stuffer to go get you those Coors bats as well. The Mariners got there late in the most unfortunate set of circumstances. Giants went full on Giants mode, and we did kind of briefly discuss how lackluster that bullpen looked, and it's exactly what happened. But from just a talent standpoint on paper, there's not a whole lot of righty smashers in this Mariners lineup, and there's a couple of guys that in their big league sample size have a 28 or greater % K rate against righties. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 guys that fit that bill. So yeah, maybe Cueto, he's a veteran guy. He can rock and chair his way into a couple cheesy strikeouts and be a serviceable SB2.
Rocking chair, and then we had the Cinderella stack. I mean, you were bringing the heat. Is this what we can expect all season from you?
No, rocking chair. That's one of his pitch deliveries, right? Where you just the cranes and saws and yeah. Steal a
And
couple
then it's the
strikes.
delayed release, because that's what he has to do at this point in time to get guys out, is he's got to quick pitch him or slow roll him a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, the
Yeah.
different deliveries kind of make up for a lower swinging strike rate if you can get your hitter off his back foot, huh?
It's like the Y-ball basketball version of a pitcher, just like pulling out all the stops, all the gimmicks to be able to get through it. But guys, also letting it be known, podcasts. If you're not able to watch all of the Awesemo stuff on YouTube Live, we've got them available on the Awesemo Podcast Network. All you have to do is just check out our major platforms, anything, Apple, Spotify. It's going to be up everywhere. So just leave a 5-star review and a 5-star rating and a review on any of our podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address, and you'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We're going to have one winner awarded every Friday, and reviews will be eligible to win for up to 1 year. So good luck with that, and give us a like and subscribe with all of those shows so you can get the DFS offers, the giveaways. We've got so much coming down the pipeline. We've got the Masters coming up next week, which I'm super ecstatic for. I'm a golf guy, so that's kind of a big traditional week for me, and for a lot of others. I think it brings a lot of the casual fans in as well. So be on the lookout for some promotions we might be having coming down the line for that as well. And then also, MLB opening day was yesterday, but we've still got a good deal going for you with the starting 9 promo. All you have to do is put in starting 9, just the number 9, and that gives you access to all of our MLB DFS stuff for 9 days, with player projections, ownership projections, the top stacks tool, which we're going to get to, the top pitchers tool that we just talked about, all of our premium Slack channel stuff. Definitely sign up for that. Not enough people take advantage of it. And we've got people talking around the clock about all the sports that you know and love. MLB's just getting going. It's been a frenetic couple days here with the overlap of NBA and MLB, but we're all going to be in there chatting every single day. Feel free to hit us up and take advantage of that now. But that offer is still valid through April 9th. So stop guessing, start winning, and join also MLB today. Let's party with a couple of, let's go to some individual stacks here. So Coors or not Coors? Like, that's really kind of the question of a short slate with Coors on the bill. What are you planning to do with some of your exposures as we're going down the line here? Because the Dodgers are just jumping off the page, and I think they're still, by Adam's tools on the top stack tool, going a little under-owned for their potential to be the top stack on this slate.
Maybe if they're projected low own, it might be to spite Trevor Bauer's higher ownership, because that salary just doesn't shake out. But sometimes I like to pivot from Coors if we got like a Great American Ballpark, Yankee Stadium, Citizens Bank Park, some more hitter friendly.
Wind blowing out in Wrigley.
Yeah, this is all pitcher parks with Coors on it. So I gotta sell out for the Dodgers here. A 7.2 implied run total. I probably didn't wake up this morning to fade that type of run total for the projected best team at baseball. So yeah, I'm gonna prioritize those bats probably over Bauer. And if I can get them lesser owned than they should be, then more power to me. I can't stay away from it.
So if we get Will Smith in that lineup, it's also going to be very, very intriguing to me. I really hated having to revert everything after lock yesterday to factor in Austin Barnes. I found that to be very, very unfun. But looking down that lineup, we've just got a bunch of righty mashers in lefty bats. Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, Gavin Lux. Kind of how are you going to build some contrarian stacks and get off of some of the guys? Like, are you going to be focusing a lot on those lefties? Are there any of like the right-handed batters between Turner, Will Smith? I really do like Will Smith in the catcher spot. 5.2K. I still don't think he'll be as owned as what he probably should be coming off of not playing yesterday.
Yes, I had to suffer from that Will Smith thing. I also suffered from AJ Pollock not being in the starting lineup and had to make some tweaks post initial lock. I guess if I had to rank, 5K for a catcher, at least on DraftKings, really feels like you are stretching. But if he's right there in the meat of the lineup, I'll go for it. And also, I don't know how many of the viewers caught that Coors game, but if Cody Bellinger hit the longest single you could possibly hit, RBI single. So like, don't forget that he probably has a much better game from a fantasy standpoint if Justin Turner knew what was going on. So I don't know. I just got no pushback on the Dodgers at all. And it's one of those spots where I'm not going to overrate the initial matchup against Senzatella. It's already a contact righty. That bullpen doesn't really have a ton of pieces that I'm going to stray away from. So it's shuffling the deck of cards. If I had to go shorter entry and just kind of tier these guys, I think Corey Seager is always going to be number one for me. Going back to the beginning of last season, just an incredibly high barrel rate. He hits the ball hard, and that's just what you really like, especially against a contact pitcher. You just more freebies there. But obviously Mookie Betts, fantastic play, and a Cody Bellinger. If you can get that violent swing against a contact righty, I'm a buyer in that. So probably Seager, Betts, Cody is my 1-3 priorities, then everything else will fall where it falls.
I like that. What can you possibly say about this? They've got the highest run, 7.2 projected run total. Senzatella is nothing. I mean, he's got a 0.1% chance of making the optimal lineup. So that's pretty exciting to be looking at that. So you're saying there's a chance is kind of what it is. So I like the Dodgers today too. It's kind of impossible not to. If you're not going to be going to the Dodgers today, we're looking at San Diego, which is garnering quite a bit of ownership. The next highest owned stack, I believe, actually a little bit lower now. We've got Seattle that's kind of moving up the board. Colorado in that same spot, which makes sense if we're talking about Seattle playing both sides of it, playing the Kikuchi side and the Giants side. I think you can say the same kind of thing for Trevor Bauer in Coors Field. We know the kind of upside that can exist there. That run total is still pretty high there. Do you have interest in going to like the Colorado route and then Seattle, San Diego? Talk a little bit about those guys too.
Yeah, so Colorado's definitely in play for me. Yesterday, a lot of people were on Louis Castillo, and the Cardinals went off. And I like to do what something called stack the ballpark, where sometimes you can kind of be numb towards the talent on the bump and just understand that sometimes that ballpark will be that ballpark, and sometimes Coors will be Coors. And Dodgers project incredibly strong pitching, both starters and bullpen. But sometimes Coors magic will be Coors magic. And there's some, while that lineup does look a little watered down, Trevor Story, Charlie Blackmon, CJ Cron has some power. Chris Owings had an incredible day yesterday.
Yeah.
One, two, Tapia and Fuentes on both sides. If they're going to be 1 and 2, that lineup came out confirmed. That's awfully cheap exposure to Coors Field. So definitely an extremely viable decision. And you could even I'm not a Bauer hater, but I don't know exactly how much I believe in Bauer. He had probably the easiest schedule I've ever seen last season, and he parlayed that into a Cy Young. So I'm not gonna say he's overrated, but you can argue that going against the Tigers a bunch of a couple times a year, maybe help, and the porous like Cubs and stuff like that, maybe he really performed over his average expectation or his average output. So there could be some leaks going on, and if that's a thought that could come into reality, maybe you attack that early on as people fear Trevor Bauer. And if you're going to over respect a pitcher that could potentially regress a little bit, even if his regression is still a great pitcher, why not take advantage of that in Coors Field and see what happens?
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I think the ownership is kind of there already, which is a little bit like right now, projected top stack 7.7% of the time, getting owned a little bit more than that, but it's pretty negligible. And we're talking about a 6-game slate. I want to be sensitive to pricing somewhat, but the best spots are the best spots. And you're talking about a Coors situation where you're getting leverage on how high owned Trevor Bauer is still going to be. That's the kind of stuff that can shoot you up a leaderboard real quick, is fading a guy who's going to be a 50% owned pitcher and going that direction. I do think Alex talks a lot about Alex Baker. He's pretty good at DFS, and I try to listen to him, but he talks a lot about how he doesn't mind eating the ownership on some of these chalkier pitchers and differentiating with his stacks. How do you kind of factor that in if you're going to be going the Dodgers route and the Colorado route and stacking some of that up? How do you really bring down your ownership some on your lineups? What are you kind of looking at doing to get different?
So I do agree with that statement. I'd rather get different with the stacks versus the pitchers, because usually the popular pitchers are guys that are just good. And good pitchers will perform more consistently than good hitters from a fantasy point output standpoint. So yeah, absolutely. And yesterday, I made this example on last night's stream. The Rangers people didn't get to the Rangers, and it wasn't that we thought Brad Keller was some elite ace. It was just, it's the Rangers. Anything can happen. And we saw it last night. Mariners are not a team projected to be good this year. They put up a bunch of runs. Giants, people sleep on the Giants. So yeah, anything in a football game could break out at any given stadium, especially when the pitching is average to below average. And that's why early on, I'm also putting a big focus on how bad bullpens are projected to be. And we discussed that as well about that Oracle Park game. And yeah, it came to fruition. So I'm in 100% agreement that I don't necessarily want to be different at the pitching spot if it's an elite pitcher. If it's like I don't know, if Cueto with his advanced metrics was going to project over owned, yeah, I'll get different there and not subject myself to a chalk high owned to below average pitcher. But yeah, for the aces, I don't want to necessarily be against it just to be against it.
Yeah. Going through a couple of these lineups that have come out. So we've got Tutsago, Austin Meadows, Randy Rosarina, Brandon Lau, Yandy Diaz, Joey Wendell, Manuel Margot is back in the lineup, and Mejia for the Rays. Kind of looking at them up against Pablo Lopez. What does that kind of make you think about his profile for this game? Again, is the wind legitimately, is the stadium open? Am I looking that correctly? Is that wind blowing in 20 miles an hour right now in Miami? Do they have the stadium open? Because I'm looking at 15 to 20 coming in from left.
I see that. I would be kind of surprised if that was
too
tangible. But
all right, I gotta find that out quick. Is the stadium open? There we go. Go ahead and talk a little bit about. So, is there any interest? I mean, that Rays lineup is still pretty interesting. I mean, Austin Meadows is just kind of coming back into his own after a lost season last year. Brandon Lau, I do like, but has had some flashes. Wendell's not imposing. Manuel Margot hit over his head in the postseason. Mejia has kind of been disappointing everywhere he's gone from San Diego and later on. But what do you kind of think about that? That's got to make you feel pretty good about Lopez again today, right?
Yes and no. Like I said, Lopez has really sharp righty splits and suspect lefty numbers. Last year, a 35% strikeout percentage to right-handed right-handed hitting with a sub 3 xFIP and a sub 200 average allowed. But it's half the K rate to lefties, 15%, with an over 4 xFIP, a 283 average allowed. I guess you could say he still kept the ball on the ground. So maybe with a solid defense behind him, he might be able to build on that. But I would like a little bit more strikeout potential, at least for the metrics to line up. So I don't love that they're super lefty heavy. I still am not like running, like some of these names are don't strike fear in me. I could see in a Rosarena or Brandon Lau, even in Austin Meadows. Like I could see those guys being a problem, but it's still looking like a lineup that, wouldn't be my first stack, but I wouldn't push you away from it. But yeah, I was hoping for a little bit more righty action here for Pablo.
Yeah, I think that roof is open. So just letting that be known, that might be a good thing in general for pitchers in that spot. And Yarborough, I like taking some shots on. Lopez, I think is going to be popular as a SP2 on 2 pitcher sites, and I think rightfully so. Going through some of these other lineups that we do have out, we got the Rockies lineup as well, which you have Tapia Fuentes sitting there 1-2, like you had said, Trevor Story, Blackmon, CJ Cron, who I'm very high on this entire season from a year-long perspective, Ryan McMahon, Chris Owings, who we talked, the aforementioned, who completely went nuts, and Dom Nunez. This is just not like a Colorado lineup that I'm freaking out about for Trevor Bauer. It definitely, not that they can put anything else out there. That's kind of what they're stuck with this season. No Arenado in there, who was poor last year, but we know the kind of track record MVP caliber player that he is. That's a big bat to be missing in that lineup. It just kind of still looks strange seeing that Rockies lineup as watered down and poor as what it is. What do you kind of think about Bauer now?
It's Bauer's Bauer, right? These strikeout percentages over 30% to both sides of the plate. I think he's a fine, solid option. It's really just juggling the want between having Bauer as your SP1 or wanting these Dodgers bats. I mean, they're over 5K almost across the board on DraftKings, and not even just the Dodgers bats, which you alluded to, the Padres being popular. Padres have borderline Coors pricing as well, with Tatis being 6K, Manny Machado 5.7. And, maybe we got some viewers that are new to baseball. You kind like, if you see an egregious price like that for like an NBA player, like, oh, he's not going to hit value. For me, value is super subjective in baseball. A home run is a home run. That dog's going to hunt, whether it be 2K or 5K. So I kind of think that the decision on Bauer is really how much you want these big bats. And I kind of want the bats a little bit more than I want Bauer. And like I said, I'm still probably going to lean on Snell for the savings and probably the similar upside, perhaps safer environment.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going to be going that route, I think you can actually make the case kind of on both sides of it. I mean, Bauer is a solidified piece, but you win tournaments with your stack. That's really what it comes down to. Like, a pitcher is rarely going to have a outlier performance, and they're grouped together enough. I like the idea of being able to target stacks when they're in such a exponentially better situation. And again, the Dodgers are going under owned over on DraftKings still. So I like going that route, continuing to go there. But Bauer, I still think is in a great spot. And I'm going to have to get to quite a bit still on this slate. Guys, we are sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight today, and the Home Run Derby, which happens every single Friday of this entire season. It's happening today. So nobody hit a home run yesterday, or nobody picked all 3 home runs correct yesterday. So that 20K becomes 25K. What you have to do is go over to monkeyknifefight.com and you play for the jackpot, which is split amongst those who correctly select 3 players to hit a home run tonight. So that's literally all you do, is you pick 3 players to hit a home run, and you could win 25K, and it's just that simple. So stop what you're doing and head over to monkeyknifefight.com right now. You'll see right on the homepage, and better yet, if you use a $50 match deposit bonus with the promo code Awesemo, you are just like set to go right away. And free 99 is the best 99. So I recommend getting in there and doing that now. So step up to the plate and sign up with Monkey Knife Fight today. Let's talk a little bit about one-offs here now. We're talking about the home runs over here on Monkey Knife Fight. Are there kind of like 3 guys that you've got identified? Let's avoid the Coors chalk, because I think we can talk about a lot of those lefties. I think they'll be popular picks. Are there some contrarian home run calls that you've got to maybe fire up for Monkey Knife Fight today? Anybody you're looking at on DraftKings and FanDuel that really sticks out to you?
So I don't know if contrarian's the word here, but in my personal model for my bomb detection.
Bomb detection. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the greatest personal model name I've ever heard in my life. I got a bomb detection model, and it's sick. It's lit. Let's go.
It's the bomb detector. My top 3 in my bomb detector are Alex Bregman, Matt Olson, and Yasmani Grandal.
Ooh. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about each of them. Go ahead.
So Bregman went Yabo last night, cost me my triple podium finish. Kind of was the spark for the Astros, and he owes me, and this will be when if you could tell, me and the Astros, we don't jive. But one of the things that the Astros were subjected to yesterday was a lot of verbal abuse from the crowd. And man, some of these players can bottle that up and use it as fuel. And we kind of saw that the Astros were just really enjoying putting up some runs last night. So maybe if they're out there playing the villain these stadiums are going to serenade them with jeers, they'll use that as
rightfully so. Let it be known. Rightfully so.
Agreed. So yeah, I kind of like that. Yordan Alvarez, I think, had just missed one off the wall. So I do think those Houston bats could continue to be solid. And Bregman against a lefty, I'm in it. Matt Olson, just a violent swing. That's always a chip in a chair. Grandal, I was kind of surprised. Like I didn't necessarily think I would be high on Grandal from where I'm sitting. If I go look at his matchup just a little bit more, kind of see why my system.
You're good, but honestly, I absolutely love your last 2 calls, like beyond belief. Matt Olson is one of the guys I get to write a Yahoo article every Friday here throughout the MLB season. I'll be talking about kind of 3 players, so pitcher, infielder, outfielder to utilize over on Yahoo. And Matt Olson was definitely my infielder. He had a terrible 2020 season, but I'm willing to kind of overlook some of these guys who fought some slumps off. Last year's kind of just a wild card in terms of how you want to aggregate the data and sum it into who the player is. I think we've seen in previous years out of Matt Olson that he's an absolute stick. He's going to be batting in the 3-hole throughout the entire season. I expect that average to be coming up. I expect he still had an 80th percentile or better in pretty much every StatCast category, even in an abysmal year. So I look forward to right now just trying to buy in low on him. He's kind of cheaper around the industry, not priced like some of these other top tier guys. So I do like going there, and I like going there on Monkey Knife Fight is kind of one of the guys to pick. And Grandal, I think Chicago is the one stack that we haven't talked about yet that I have a ton of interest in going to. The White Sox losing Eloy Jimenez is a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but Adam Eaton is going to be playing every single day. And if you throw out 2020, where he was absolutely abysmal against lefties, you're not losing that much. 2019, he hit 16 points better batting average, had better hard hit numbers against lefties. And he's going up against Heaney. If he's in the 2-hole there, Grandal, switch hitter, doesn't necessarily have as much power from the right side of the plate, from what I remember, as he does on the left side as a switch hitter. But I do like going the Grandal route. I like going to Chicago as kind of like a low-owned target to stack. It's a little bit warmer. I live out here in Los Angeles, so it's a little bit warmer out here, I think, than it is at other ballparks around the country right now. So I do like going the direction of some of these White Sox that over on the top stacks tool are just going a little bit underrepresented as well. What do you think about that?
I'm in full agreement with that. White Sox against lefties, definitely something I'm a buyer on. I'm looking at Grandal from what I have since over the course of the last 2 seasons. I'm looking at almost a 49% hard contact rate against lefties. So that's probably why my model is pretty high on him. And Andrew Heaney against righties last year, he didn't give up a high home run per 9 to righties, but it does suggest that there's some room for regression, as he allowed a 44.1% hard contact rate with a near 42% fly ball rate. So that's kind of what my model is projecting, is the pull rates, the fly ball rates, and the hard contact rates from both the hitter and the pitcher. So I guess that's just kind of a perfect matchup there. I'll also say there's some pretty drastic, at least from the eye test, from what I'm watching, the FanDuel pricing on White Sox versus the DraftKings pricing leaves a lot of just implied value. I mean, 3,300 for Moncada and potentially the cleanup spot. Tim Anderson leading off. Yeah, he's closer to 4K, but it's still enough. Like, it's still cheap enough that I can get to versus the DraftKings pricing, 5.5 on Anderson, 5.8 on Abreu. Moncada's almost 5K. Like, this feels like almost an easier path to a Bauer, to a Snell from a FanDuel perspective. And I felt this way yesterday with the Royals. The Royals were priced almost Coors-esque in Kaufman versus on FanDuel. They were a little bit more average price. So I do like the White Sox. I probably like them even more so on FanDuel. But yeah, 100% in agreement. And then that Angels bullpen projects to be league average to below league average. So quality at bats past Heaney. And I think, Heaney's a respectable pitcher, but if they can get him out in 5 innings, then you have half a game of all bets are off with some really talented White Sox bats.
Yeah, that's the huge question mark, I think, on the Angels. And I think Joe Maddon's got his work cut out for him in that department. We actually had a super chat I wanted to bring up here on the front end. Your shout out gun from Darren P. I was going to say a lot of love coming into the chat. It's good to have somebody who's super loved in the chat to balance it out with me. I'm a enigmatic character. So I just want to let that be known. But we also have T. McBee. We got Terry McBride, our guy here at Awesemo. He decided to throw in thoughts on Bauer's vertical-based repertoire functioning in the Coors altitude that wreaks havoc on that. Just a 1 career start sample size, 3.1 innings pitched, 5 walks, and 4 earned runs on only 3K. I'm not worried about the walk rate for him coming in there. I mean, he's kind of traditionally a low walk guy in general. He's an elite pitcher. Most elite pitchers have to keep guys off base and do it that way. He maybe pitched a little bit over his head in terms of leaving guys on base. He had like one of the best marks in the entire league there. As much as I want to think somebody steps up to the occasion in certain situations, I don't think that that's analytically correct to look at it that way. But what are your thoughts on that? Because that is a very smartly worded question.
Yeah, my IQ kind of rose a couple points there. Appreciate that, Terry. Yeah, I mean, so I'm usually extremely stubborn when it comes to Coors. Like, no matter who it is, I'm just like, I'm not pitching in Coors. I don't have to do it. It's dumb. Today, I'm a little bit more receptive of the idea. But like I said, I also want to I want to believe that Trevor Bauer just parlayed just a ridiculously easy schedule last year to maybe where he projects better. Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, the Cubs, the Royals, the Brewers. Those were all of
Not
his
world
games.
beaters. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's his
world
schedule last year. There's a White Sox game in there, but that's his schedule. So like, I still struggle to believe like he's that elite, because years prior, you know, he's more of an average pitcher. He does have a million pitch types, and he's a little funky. He does his, you know, due diligence. He's going to study. He's going to know what works and what doesn't work. But
his FanGraphs page is definitely a trip. It's not a normal place to be going. But yeah, continue on.
No, he just has pitches for days. He's a very unique individual, to put it lightly. So like the skepticism that we might have about, you know, his pitch selection, if there's a pitcher that I believe has already kind of looked into that, I think it is Trevor Bauer. So maybe they do have a diet and a pitch plan that's a little bit more appropriate for the environmental change here. I still kind of want to feel like I want to trust my guns and avoid pitchers in Coors, especially since I have a proper pivot that I believe in Blake Snell that should be just fine. So yeah, I'm kind of leaning like, I don't know. I can't say I'm going to full fade Bauer because I do have 100 lineups set up on both sites, but I don't feel like I'm as eager to play Bauer as it sounds like the rest of the community is.
Somebody just said in the chat, John Means is dealing right now. That makes me nauseous and goes against everything I believe in. So that's not great. Anywho, we just got a San Diego lineup. I'll refresh Fantasy Cruncher here for a second. The Fantasy Cruncher changes. I do like a lot of the stuff that they did on the front formatting of it. I like being able to kind of like specifically get in and filter a lot of the things that I'm looking at. So good job, Fantasy Cruncher. I'm going to defend the change. I liked it very much. Down on this bottom end, where are you kind of looking at saving salary? I think we've talked a little bit. We're both kind of tournament guys. We talk a lot about stack types. I think you talked a little bit about that yesterday in your first show. I like kind of going the 5-2 route on DraftKings. I'm looking at going 4-4, 4-3, kind of mixing it around a little bit, trying to get unique, just to making sure that I don't overlap a bunch of like the most popular stacks. I'm not going to be getting to much Dodgers and San Diego combinations. I can tell you that much today. But is there anything specifically down on this bottom end you're looking at for like guys either like catcher on DraftKings, which is a popular spot to go punt if you're playing cash games, or if you're doing some 3-max stuff? Is there any like of these cheaper hitters on either DraftKings or FanDuel? I'm traditionally not looking to punt because it's pretty easy to plug and play guys like a Will Myers or something today.
So Luis Campusano is a name I was not expecting today.
What? That's the first one off the bat?
Well,
okay.
you mentioned like guys in the reason I want to mention him, at least on DraftKings, a 2.2K salary will help. If there's a position I'm going to punt, it is the catcher spot. So if the world wants to pay $5K for Will Smith, and you know I could save $3K right there at that catcher spot, I'm okay with eating a zero. I don't know much about him. I'm looking at his career minor league campaign, and I don't necessarily know the context of this, whether it be AAA, AA. But in his overall minor league campaign, he bats over 300, and he has a 816 OPS with 22 homers and 816 at bat. So solid hit for average, at least archetype to him. And if that's cheap exposure to, you know, one of my favorite stacks on the day, the Padres, I might throw him in there. So yeah, that's just kind of a name that stuck out just because of the price point and it being a throwaway position for me, like the catcher spot.
Would you like to know where Luis Campusano is from? What city he's from? Think of next week. What have I talked about that's coming up next week?
I have the answer.
The man's from Augusta, Georgia. It's hard to beat that. Like, if you want to talk about narrative street, that just kind of is like the overarching combination of everything. The man's from Augusta, Georgia. It's the week before Masters Week. He's getting, I believe, his first MLB. He had 3 at-bats last year, so we're not going to look at that. He did hit a homer in one of those 3 at-bats, letting it be known. But I'm going to have to play him now here at this point. I mean, it's hard to go over, like to just bypass that narrative. So I like that call. I can't believe that was the first guy, though, that you're going to list off in terms of salary savings. But yeah, we just got that San Diego lineup. So we've got Pham, Tatis Jr., Machado, Hosmer, Myers, Cronenworth. It was kind of normal until the Campusano. But I guess he definitely earned a spot in the rotation here.
I mean, like, yeah, Tommy Pham's still probably ridiculously too cheap on every site.
That makes more sense to me. Yeah, do that.
But the only reason like my eyes kind of lit up on Campusano is because I don't know who he is, and I saw the price point, and it's close. You mentioned free 99. He's doggone close. So if you in his minor league stuff projects well, a lot of times you throw away a catcher with like a 140 Jeff Mathis type. This guy has at least some numbers in his minor league campaign that gives me some hope. So I kind of like that just as from that catcher spot. But yeah, Tommy Pham on both sides, way too cheap. But probably my highest owned player. I don't have a pulse on the industry right now where they'll be at, but I would imagine Tommy Pham at that price and a leadoff opportunity is going to be high like he was yesterday.
Yeah, we still got, well over 2 hours before we get to lock time here. Make sure that you're checking in with the Awesemo projections, with the ownership projections. He's going to have you covered with everything that you need. They are so remarkably accurate. It's kind of disgusting. He pretty much nailed every single Coors hitter on the nail yesterday over on FanDuel and DraftKings. It was pretty unbelievable. So make sure that you're refreshing those as we get closer to lock. There'll be a little bit. We should have every single lineup. We don't have the Dodgers that sometimes end up being the one team that you're waiting for after lock. But I think we'll probably have every single lineup before 4 o'clock out here on the West Coast, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. So not terribly concerned, but keep hitting refresh. I do expect him to be garnering some ownership as I'm looking at the rest of this position. But yeah, Pham, I like that call as well. But San Diego going to be a popular stack that I'm going to probably be lighter on. Coors, it's really hard to overlook that, but San Diego, I like them as a team. They're just going to be garnering a little bit more ownership than maybe they should in that ballpark from the get-go. People are excited to stack them, I think is part of what I'm getting from it. Do you agree with that at all?
Yeah, 100%. Some of these teams will just have name value. I would assume just without looking at any slate, if I didn't know any pitcher and I just knew these teams, Padres, White Sox, and Dodgers, just environment be darned would be the names that stick out, or at least the teams that stuck out. So it only makes sense once you put some more context to matchup in environment for them to be popular here. If you really want a crazy cheapie, Tim LeCastro is leading off for the
Saw that.
for the D-backs. He's kind of notorious for getting on base and stealing bases, which yesterday he hit a homer and my jaw hit the ground because I didn't know that was even possible. But he's just really kind of hired as a guy to get on base and steal bases. And I'm indifferent on this because Blake Snell, I've been listening to some offseason interviews. I listened to CC Sabathia's podcast, and Blake Snell said that it's a point of interest for him to throw more strikes and attack hitters more instead of nibbling. But he has a history of walking righties. And maybe he gets a little wild, gets a little loose, and LeCastro gets on. So he's kind of a chip in a chair for a stolen base or two, and then maybe turns into a run. He's kind of cheap on both sides. Not something I'm prioritizing, just kind of a name I'm throwing out there if I had to play one or two weirdos to get me a Bauer and a couple Dodgers bats. Top of the lineup guy with the purpose and apparently home run potential.
Yeah, well, you did it one time, so it's gonna happen again for sure. Yeah, Wyatt Matheson in the 8-hole. That's a strange name there. Looking around the rest of it, guys, get your questions on in there too. We're gonna have a little bit of time here. We've got 12 minutes before we're gonna turn it over to the Deeper Dive crew over on the NBA stream that they're gonna be doing. You'll have to click out of this and jump over to that link. But we've got that coming down the pipeline. I believe that's gonna be starting up here soon. But we've got 12 minutes. Let's keep partying here. Just load up your questions in Premium Slack or here in the YouTube chat. We'll kind of get to those too. T McBee was saying that it's 60 grade raw power for Campusano. And yeah, he beat a felony marijuana possession charge in Georgia. That's marijuana. That's not a real thing. In California, you can do it for free. It's just, it's not my thing, but I think a lot of people can just recreationally do it. I don't think that that's a character flaw at this point in time. I'm going to play Luis Campusano because he's from Augusta, Georgia, more than I'm going to do anything else. Big fan of that narrative. We got the Dodger lineup. I guess we should probably address this while we're at it, shall we? Once I refresh it. It seems like an important talking point on this slate. It looks exactly like you would expect it to. And this is the lineup I wanted yesterday. This would have made life so much easier. But Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Max Muncy, Will Smith, AJ Pollock, Gavin Lux. That's the A team. That's the absolute best lineup that the Dodgers can roll out. Pretty excited about that. You've got to be too, right?
Yeah, not a name in that lineup that I would exclude from my optimizer.
Yep, not a single one. It's oh boy, what a fun slate this is going to be. Love Coors Slate's first 2 slates of the year, especially on a 6-gamer. That's just going to kind of make this very, very interesting. Let's see what's wrong with the name. Let's see. How much money? Okay, so how much money would you be willing to leave on the table on a DK GPP today? That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's also just a great talking point for viewers that might be trying to transition from either football or basketball. For me, like salary is nothing. I don't hold a value unless it's like pitchers where I know I need a threshold of points because of the variance from hitters. I'm more so honoring my stacks than anything else. So when I script, I actually put a min salary of 80%. So it's not making a conscious decision that I want to leave 20%, but saying I'd rather honor my stacking aspirations and have those out than say, oh man, Tim LaCastro, I can upgrade him for another 2,500 and then miss out on that homer and then miss out on that stack, and then my stacks don't look like my stack. So I don't worry about salary at all. So I would probably encourage you guys to do the same. I don't think spending salary on this slate is going to be an issue because of the Dodgers, the Padres, and the White Sox. But going forward in your Mlb DFS journey, I would probably encourage you guys to not feel pressured to spend the salary, because this is, for me, not a value-based sport, whether it is cashing in on a positive range of outcome that you hit with your stack, in the spirit of your stack.
San Francisco or Arizona stack for a GPP?
Probably San Francisco, because I do like the Giants against lefties. They just and yesterday we saw Evan Longoria and Buster Posey. We had some suspicions last night of what we might expect from some of the elder statesmen of the league, especially Posey after entire year off. Their at bats look pretty solid, and Longo, he had a questionable strikeout in the middle of a solid game. So probably the Giants for me, and then I love the matchup for the Giants after Kikuchi. That Mariners bullpen, not something I'm scared of. I think it was projected bottom 7 in the league, so definitely Giants for me.
Jason Garnett, sleeper pick from Devil Emoji. I don't know. You're Yuli Gurriel. What do you think about him today?
We haven't really discussed the Astros much. So I would say that like the Astros project better for me right now than the lack of discussing that we've given them. Like I said, Bregman was one of the top guys on the bomb detector for me. Carlos Correa looked sharp in spring. Yesterday was fine. And then Yordan Alvarez, jury might be out on him. And if you believe in, reverse splits versus sample size, but so far so good against lefties for him. And then Yuli Gurriel, somebody that, cheap enough that kind of slides right there in that heart of the lineup, and it would get into that average athletics bullpen right now. So I don't mind him. There's not like a metric that's attached to him versus lefties right now that I'm saying I have to have him. Like, he's fine if he fills out the spirit of a stack. But like, I don't think he's a bad play inherently. If he fits, he fits. If that's what you need, he's a low strikeout guy. Get on base, and then maybe gets one of the first dibs at the bullpen guys.
Yeah, guys, hit that like button too as we're wrapping up before we get out of here. First live before lock for both of us here of the entire year. Hoping to be doing a couple more of these with you guys coming down the pipeline, but hit that like button and definitely hit that subscribe button. Again, we have so much content coming out here in so many different sports, so many different places. Know when all of it is going live. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Any other questions we got here loaded up? Thought on a full A stack. I do like that question.
Oh, man, I might be a day late and $1 short on that one. Last night they were one of my 3 main on the late slate, and a little stagnant, but you got to have goldfish memory, especially in a high variance sport like baseball. The Astros bullpen, another a bullpen that doesn't project to be world shakers. So Javier, decent strikeout stuff to righties, but if you look past the strikeout potential, he had 48.2 innings pitched last year. Honestly, the strikeout rate does not match the swinging strike rate. I got a 8.4%. So there's a definitely a movement for regression there. And his Sierra and his xFIP is well above his ERA.
4.86 xFIP, but yet a 3.02 ERA. Like those two things don't necessarily match up.
So athletics definitely make a lot of sense here. And like I said, Olsen's high on the bomb detector for me. And then, he looked really sharp in spring. He was hitting with a lot of power. Ramon Laureano was one of the bright points for them last night. And Chad Pinder, bottom of the lineup still. Swipe right on Pinder.
Yeah, you want to talk about another guy that just out of the middle of nowhere against Kikuchi. I really do like Wilmer Flores. I think he had been brought up a couple of times. Big fan of going to Wilmer Flores against any lefty from now until the end of time. Until he retires, I think Wilmer Flores is a good one-off. He's a piece of my stack if I'm going to stack up San Francisco for sure today. But what do you think about Wilmer Flores?
Wilmer, I love the Giants against lefties. And Wilmer Flores was part of it yesterday. I think he got was it a double in the middle of the game? Guys in front of him were looking sharp. Brandon Belt had just missed one down the line. The Giants' bats were awake last night. I mean, they crumbled, but the Giants' bats were awake last night offensively. So, Wilmer's right there in the mix of things. I wish he was a little higher in the order to take more advantage of his recent history or his historical splits against left-handed pitching. I would really want to catch it on that more. Maybe Gabe Kapler thinks about that, but 100% okay with Wilmer Flores, and I think he's priced at least on FanDuel. Like I'll take 2,800 Wilmer all day long, all day strong.
Chad Pinder. Nope, we're not going to say that. These are bad words. Don't put bad words in our chat. Kind of looking around. Cueto. Yeah, Seattle is a team we haven't really talked about yet either. Mitch Haniger had a terrible he didn't even play 2020. He had all of his abdominal issues. 2019 was kind of a wash where he was hurt constantly, but 2018, he was like one of the best hitters in baseball. A guy that I was playing routinely, now leading off, kind of won the leadoff spot there. What do you kind of think about Mitch Haniger as a one-off? I think he's a guy I'm going to try to target just in case there is some regression for him going forward. Positive regression, that is.
I mean, if he's leading off in the lineup, you can get cheap exposure to hopefully the most at bats on the Mariners team. Yeah, 4, 5, 6 at bats if you're in a good place, and then Cueto's nothing to run from. Has been leaky to homer, right-handed homers last season. Both bullpens not good. So like you said, the first half of the game, we can kind of predict what's going to happen. But after that, we're getting some league average at best journeymen. And I think, Mitch Haniger could take advantage of first dibs at that bullpen and maybe 5, 6, 7 at bats. It's not a priority for me, but he's on that Mariners team. He's probably the only established, maybe Kyle Seager, big league talent guy. I do think Ty France and Jake Fraley still have some viability. Ty France for power. And Fraley looks like he's going to be a base stealer. So if he gets on at near min price on both sides, another chip in a chair for some value to kind of squeeze in those Bauer Snell combos, if that is the goal.
Love it. We've got 2 minutes left. What do you think are kind of the keys to be looking at this slate? Is there anything that you're looking for as we get closer to lock? What is kind of your game plan? I think we've talked a lot about how you're looking at Dodgers. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I think it would be a tough fade to stomach, I think, on this slate. But what are kind of your overarching things that you want to leave the people with?
I mean, it's looking like right now I'm going to try and get Dodgers, Padres, White Sox, and probably Athletics, Astros, and just kind of build my night on that area. Obviously the Giants too. I don't want to leave them out. There's not a whole lot of like one-offs that I'm just running from. Austin Slater got subbed out late last night. He did homer. He was my highest owned player last night, so that kind of worked out for him. But maybe that's a sign that if Kikuchi turns into a righty in the 4th inning, maybe we lose an at bat or 2 on Slater. I have to meditate on that in terms of my personal exposure. Sorry, there's another train.
Spam the chat with the train emoji. Just spam it. Just spam it on the way out here.
There's a train emoji.
There's definitely a train emoji. There's an emoji for just about everything, but like and subscribe to the channel here, guys. Also, we've got a couple of free tools that are available today. If you go over to NBA, if you're playing that today, we've got the NBA Big Board and we have the NHL Top Stacks, which is going to be free for today. So take a look at those if you're bouncing around playing other sports. Yeah, otherwise we are going to be out of here in a second, but get down to that bottom bar again, hit that subscribe button. Just know when we're going live for all of these different shows. It's a good time. We're happy to have you around here. We've got the deep dive, which is going as we speak. They are fired up. They're getting you ready for the NBA lock that's coming up here at 4:00 over out here on the West Coast, 7:00 on the East Coast. Gundacker, dude, we did this. We got through an hour talking about lineups that aren't even out yet. This is a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, can't wait for the next one. Baseball's back full swing. I'm having a blast. And we are going to be extremely tired Monday morning. Some of you guys more so with golf and MMA. And yeah. We've got live before locks on Sunday for NBA. We've got a live before lock with Ben Raza, the doctor, now the Dr. DFS, as we are now calling him. He's a genius of all things, especially the Masters. He'll get you set to go with me on Wednesday. Can't wait to see you guys there. This has been a blast. We are going to sign off. For Gundacker, for Eric, let's get out of here. Good luck.